everybody. Welcome to Open House New York's virtual tour with the Lower East Side Ecology Center. My name is Kylene and I'm a compost associate here with the organization. And what we have for you today is a tour of the market. So this is where the magic happens and where we get all of our donations of food scraps. So we get hundreds of people coming to Union Square 4 days a week where they drop off their organic waste and we take it back to the Easter Compost Yard. So Renee will give you the entire tour of the compost yard where you can see what happens to the food scraps after we pick them up.
Welcome to the Easter Park Compost Yard. This site is a 1-acre compost facility located within this beautiful 57-acre park. In 1998, the Ecology Center brought its compost operation to the park. This site represents an amazing local model for how organic waste can be sustainably managed and benefit the local community. We collect food scraps from nearby residents, and those materials travel only a few miles to be made into compost, and the finished compost is then used within the park and nearby community gardens to rebuild the soils. Additionally, we welcome volunteers onto the site to learn about the composting process through hands-on activities and also teach workshops to the nearby community on all things compost related. So, the first step in our composting process starts with you, our lovely participants who carefully save up food scraps each week and bring them to one of our drop-off sites throughout Lower Manhattan. We bring these scraps into our site to be transformed into compost. One of the most important steps in making compost is ensuring that our compost pile recipe has a balance of browns, which are our carbon-rich materials such as wood chips, sawdust, and leaves, and greens, which are nitrogen-rich materials or your food scraps. Here, we mix roughly a 50-50 blend of food scraps with wood chips and wood shavings. This ensures that our piles stay aerobic or rich in oxygen and don't cause any odor issues for our fellow neighbors and park users. In building a compost pile, I like to think of it as creating habitat for our decomposer friends, bacteria, fungi, worms, micro and macroorganisms. A compost pile is an ecologically rich environment. After our materials are mixed together, they are formed into windrows, which are elongated piles that are roughly 6 to 8 feet tall and 20 to 30 feet long. This is when things get exciting. The decomposers start to, decompose your food scraps, and in doing so, they generate a lot of heat. Our compost piles get to be about 160 degrees Fahrenheit at peak. These temperatures are sustained for multiple weeks until the majority of the materials have been decomposed. Once most of the materials are decomposed, the compost piles enter the curing phase. Here's where the worms and fungal networks start to populate the compost pile as the compost piles begin to cool. So now it's been about 6 months since your materials came onto the site and we're ready to distribute this beautiful compost to the community, but we have one final step in our process. We sift our compost to remove any contamination that might have snuck in. One of the most common culprits are fruit stickers and those produce twist ties you see. We also receive a lovely collection of silverware and kitchen utensils that sneak into a compost drop-off. So please remember to always double check that you are only dropping off things with us that actually decompose. We have to remove all those stickers and plastics by hand with the help of staff and volunteers. So now that we have sifted out any plastics, our compost is ready to be used in the park or donated to other community greening groups to build the soil in their communities. And there you have it. From plate to soil in our community, this is how we transform food scraps into nutrient-rich compost.
My name is Lacey Tauber, and I am a new board member of the Lower East Side Ecology Center.
My name is Ceci. I use they and them pronouns. I have the title of being the executive director at BK Rot.
I'm council member Antonio Reynoso. Been a council member for about 6 years now.
I'm Keith Powers. I'm a city council member representing the east side of Manhattan.
My name is Ron Gonen. I am the CEO of Closed Loop Partners. Closed Loop Partners is an advisory and investment firm focused on building the circular economy.
I'm Bridget Anderson, Deputy Commissioner of Recycling and Sustainability at the New York City Department of Sanitation.
My name is Shawn Garcia. I'm a resident in the Lower East Side.
I wanted to ask you, what is community composting in your opinion, what does it do?
Yeah, so I consider community composting when we work together as a community to collect local food waste or organic waste and transform it into something that then can go back and feed the earth as well as our communities. And I guess when I envisioned it, it really is a community in this wider sense, even going beyond us as humans, but thinking about a lot of the microorganisms and other decomposers that are involved in making this magical transformation happen.
Well, first and foremost, what I would say is that community composting is exactly the indicator that we have for residents of New York City to understand that things that we throw away aren't always trash. And so organic material that tends to end up in our trash cans is actually a resource that we should be using, and we should be using to help support the greening of our city. So I would say the first and most important thing is just a mindset about what we throw away and trying to use it to its highest and best use when it's not actually trash. And I always talk about how the brown bin program, the curbside composting program, stands on the shoulders of decades of effort by community composters to illustrate the value and the benefit of taking your food scraps and your yard waste and composting it, and that you're able to, unlike with, let's say, your recyclables, where it has to travel through many hands to many parts of the country and the world to become a new product, you're literally creating the new product, right here locally. And so I think community composting has played in a really important role in basically making the case that this is it's useful, it's beneficial, and it's viable, and it's possible. A lot of people are skeptical about space constraints in New York City and about what people are willing to do. And yes, we have our fair share of challenges related to rodent management, et cetera. But we've proven the case time and time again through the New York City Compost Project and community composting efforts.
Well, first is community-based composters deserve credit and recognition for being the foundation of the organics program in New York City. One of the things that enabled me to scale the program once I came into the administration is that you'd had all of these community composters like the Lower East Side Ecology Center that had been in operation for many, many years and enabled thousands of New Yorkers to already participate in organic separation and composting. And so I wasn't in the position where I was looking for citizen number one to start doing organics. I was in the position where there were tens of thousands of citizens that had been participating for years, and I was able to use that momentum to design and launch a much bigger program. So first is the community composters deserve a lot of credit for being the foundation of the organics program. Second, I think that they are going to remain a really important long-term part of the solution, because logistics are so complicated in New York City and so expensive that when you can have local processing of organics, whether it be through community compost facilities or small-scale anaerobic digestion, you reduce the cost of moving waste and organics around and the pollution of trucks on the streets.
Well, I actually got into politics. One, for reforming the Democratic Party after Barack Obama. Was like somebody I looked up to and really thought I wanted to emulate. But also because my community is an environmental justice community. We handled about 40% of the city's trash in one neighborhood. We have one of the highest asthma rates in all of the city, and we also have one of the least amount of park spaces in all of the city. So I care deeply about what sanitation and the way we handle our trash looks like in the city of New York, because it affects my community probably more than any other community in all of the city of New York. Organics recycling is another opportunity for our community to see even more justice, and also to speak to justice for communities in which we're dumping this trash. Even though it doesn't happen in the city of New York, we are landfilling all of this garbage in other communities that tend to be disconnected, disenfranchised, poor, black and brown. So knowing that we could divert a significant amount of that trash and limit the amount of trash we're moving to these other states and these other cities, while also assisting us here in the city of New York economically by limiting how much money we need to spend on dumping that trash. But all that is important for me. It's been a fight that I've been a part of for more than a decade. So again, for me, the organics recycling really speaks to a bigger picture of transforming the way we do trash in the city of New York. That helps, again, with equity in neighborhoods of color or neighborhoods, specifically neighborhoods that are environmental injustice communities or environmental justice communities.
You know, there are so many different organizations in the city that are participating in this and in different places. And it's really like the front line for folks in communities to interact with their natural environment, maybe in ways that they haven't before, to learn about where our waste goes, which, you know, is something that people don't really think about very much. But, you know, I love the quote, there's no such thing as a way, as in to throw something away, it has to go somewhere. And when folks start to see compost, you know, in their neighborhood and folks that they know participating in it, they start to think about where all of their waste goes and really begin to engage on these issues. And again, it's such a great opportunity for local job creation, green jobs, youth education, and again, you know, helping keep waste out of our landfills, which is a really important thing for, you know, environmental reasons and environmental justice reasons.
From an organizing perspective, as a community organizer, I saw composting as a really great, accessible way for people to get involved in community gardens, to get involved in climate justice work. And they could do it today because, you know, composting, you know, there are complex things about it, but a lot of it is tied to intuition. And once you learn the basics, you can really dig in deep and play with the worms.
You, together with Councilmember Powers, have introduced some exciting legislation, and I would like for you to explain what the goals of the CORE Act are.
Well, the CORE Act was an emergency response to the defunding of the compost work that we've been doing here, an organics program that we've been doing here in the city of New York as a pilot for quite some time. We understand the value of recycling organics, specifically because it accounts for about 1/3 of our solid waste here in the city of New York. We want to be smart about it. We want to be greener. We want to do a better job. We're related to sustainability, and mandatory organics recycling long-term is the answer for that. But because of the crisis that we're in now, the financial crisis that we're in now, we find ourselves having to be smarter or more creative about how exactly we're going to allow for people to handle their organics. Keith Powers and I got together. We thought about allowing for a site in every single community board in the city of New York to be able to accept organics so that folks from their home can take it to these sites. In Williamsburg, for example, now that we've lost our curbside organics, I'm going to be able to find the local site to be able to take this trash to. So CORE is in reaction to that. It's a step in the direction of eventually getting to mandatory organics recycling across the board. But we also know that the CORE Act can be the beginning of just a smarter, more thoughtful, progressive approach to how we handle trash.
Yes, the CORE Act is a bill that I introduced with Councilmember Antonio Reynoso, who chairs the Committee on Sanitation in the City Council, and it's aimed at improving and expanding and upholding our commitment to recycling and composting in the city. So it's intended to be around equity, so every neighborhood has the same access, and also to do our social good here, which is to help save our earth and to compost and then there's a component of it that also requires there to be recycling at those sites as well. And right now, particularly this year, we went through because of a fiscal crisis, a number of budget cuts across the board. We saved the community composting program in peace. but that we lost the curbside pickup program. So it's even more important now that we really invest in community composting and make sure people have someplace to take it.
Last but not least, I wanted to also find out, what is your favorite organism in the compost pile?
Right now or lately, I've just been really amazed by fungi, and I can't even tell you what exact fungi live in the BK Rock compost piles. But they are an organism that just leave me completely in awe. And I think they're so giving. They give back to our soils, back to our land, and have so much intelligence I don't even understand.
So I would say roly-polies. It's roly-polies. I love sow bugs and pill bugs.
Something that a lot of people say, but it's going to be our red wigglers, our worms.
It'd be like an earthworm or something. Would be something that I love and I'm happy to see, thrives in compost 100%.